I still had the rig. That was the whole problem. 11 months after they closed the listening post and reassigned me to a desk that did nothing but generate reports about other desks, I kept the receiver in a footlocker under my bed, and most nights I still ran it, the way a man keeps turning a key in a lock long after the door's been bricked over. Habit isn't a virtue. Nobody put that on my performance review, but they might as well have. The rig was obsolete by design. Scavenged dish, a preamp I'd built myself, tuned to a slice of spectrum nobody official cared about anymore, because nothing official used it. Old maintenance bands, decommissioned relay ghosts, the kind of frequency a listening post used to babysit before the budget people decided babysitting was a luxury. I was eating cold rice out of the container when it came through. Not a hail, not a distress call in any shape a duty officer would recognize, because it wasn't built for a duty officer to hear. It was internal, a structural fault chirp, the kind of signal a station bleeds to its own maintenance grid when a hull seam starts singing the wrong note. Repetitive, mechanical, not addressed to anyone, least of all to us. It shouldn't have reached my dish at all. I found that out later, and it took me a long time to stop turning it over in my head. Somewhere out past the edge of anything Earth patrolled, an old scrap relay, decommissioned, half-blind, left in orbit because towing it out was more expensive than ignoring it, happened to still be pointed the wrong way, catching side lobes off a mining relay outpost's internal comms and reflecting the leakage onto a band that only one obsolete, illegal little rig in a civilian apartment was still listening to. I want to say I hesitated because I understood the size of what I was about to do. I didn't. I hesitated because I was chewing. Then I ran the pattern twice more to be sure, because that much the old training never left me. You don't move a ship on a hunch. You move it on a repeatable signature. It repeated. Same interval, same degrading amplitude, the kind of curve a structural chirp draws when the thing generating it is getting worse, not better, and isn't being answered. I logged the raw capture on a drive I wasn't supposed to have, time-stamped it, and set the container of rice down because my hands had stopped being steady enough to hold both. Then I got up and did what I had no standing to do. I didn't file it. Filing it meant it went into a queue, and a queue meant it got triaged by someone who'd ask, correctly, why a structural chirp on a dead maintenance band from an unclaimed direction should move anyone's ship. I knew the answer they'd give. I used to give it myself, back when the post was open, and I was the one deciding what counted. Instead, I called Dana Ferris. She had the patrol frigate Corrigan on a routine sweep 2 systems over, and she'd been my duty partner back when the post still had a reason to exist, and she was the only person I knew who might act on my word instead of on the paperwork my word hadn't become yet. It's not addressed to us, I told her. It's not addressed to anyone. That's the problem. Then why call? Because nobody else is going to hear it. There was a silence on the line that I'd come to recognize over the years as Dana doing arithmetic nobody had taught her how to do, weighing an old friend's gut against a printed order that didn't cover this case because nobody had ever imagined this case. Then she said, "Give me the bearing," and the Corrigan came off its sweep line 40 minutes later, on my say-so and nothing else, and every ounce of that decision was going to be hers to answer for if I was wrong. I was not wrong. What I learned afterward, stitched together from Dana's report, and things I was never supposed to see, was this. The outpost was called Hallow Deep, a mining relay platform running on infrastructure old enough that half its systems predated the crew currently staffing it. A seam had failed in the lower ring. Their own distress protocol had done exactly what it was built to do, screamed at their own network, their own chain of command, their own people, and their own people were 4 days out at the nearest response speed they had. 4 days against a hull that had maybe 30 hours left in it. Their junior comms officer, a woman named Verith Neese, was the one standing watch when Hallow Deep's sensors picked up an inbound signature that matched nothing in any registry she had access to. She told Dana later, and Dana told me, because some things you don't keep from the man who caused them, that she assumed it was a scavenger, drawn by the distress chirp, the kind that circled wounded stations the way gulls circle a sinking boat. She had the outpost's meager defenses ready, what little of them still had power routed to them, and she'd already started drafting the log entry she expected to write, unidentified vessel, hostile intent presumed, engaging. She was not ready for a hail in a language her translation matrix had to work at, from a ship that identified itself as Earth Patrol Vessel Corrigan, responding to a structural distress call. She read the hail 3 times before she answered it, she said. Not out of fear. Out of the specific, narrow confusion of being handed a fact that has no slot to file itself into. Hallow Deep's chirp ran on frequencies that predated the current comms officer's entire career. Wired into a maintenance grid, nobody outside the platform had ever had reason to monitor, addressed to nothing beyond its own hull. There was no path on any chart from that signal to a human patrol vessel. She checked. She checked twice more after that. During the 60 hours the Corrigan sat off their beam running seam patches through their damaged ring, because the not knowing kept nagging at her worse than the leak had. We did not send that call to you, she said. It was, apparently, the first full sentence she managed. I know, Dana told her. It wasn't sent to us at all. They took 11 days to explain that properly to each other, in the after-action language people use when the plain version is too strange to say out loud in the moment. A relay nobody had decommissioned correctly. A dish angled wrong for 40 years. A civilian receiver in an apartment 9 light-years from anywhere Hallow Deep had ever been plotted on a chart. A man who had no legal reason to be listening, and no legal reason to act on what he heard, and did both anyway. The Corrigan held position 60 hours, patched the seam with what they had aboard, ferried 9 injured crew to the platform's own medical bay, because the frigate's was smaller, and left before Hallow Deep's own relief convoy finally arrived, 4 days late, exactly as scheduled, exactly as useless as scheduled would have made them. Nis asked Dana, near the end, the question that apparently every officer on that platform kept circling back to without quite landing on it. Why would anyone answer a call that was never meant for them? Dana didn't have a clean answer. Neither do I, and I'm the one who started it. There was a review. Of course there was a review. I'd broken enough small rules to fill a folder. Unauthorized equipment, unauthorized frequency monitoring, routing operational intelligence outside the chain of command, to a personal contact rather than a queue. Nobody could quite work out what to charge me with, because nothing in the regulations anticipated a retired listening post operator running an illegal rig out of a footlocker and getting it right. They ended up giving me a formal caution and, unofficially, letting the whole thing drop, the way institutions do, when the alternative is admitting the rulebook has a hole in it shaped exactly like this. I still have the rig. I never turned it off. Not for one night since. Not even after the caution. Not even after Dana told me, half laughing, half not, that I'd better not make a habit of starting international incidents on a full stomach. Most nights it's static. Most nights, nothing comes through that means anything. And I sit there anyway, with cold food and a headset, because I used to be paid to listen, and now I just do it because somebody has to, and because I already know what it costs to be the only one who does. I think about Nis sometimes, a woman on a platform I'll never see, staring at a viewport at a ship she never called, working out for the first time that the universe has more ears in it than anyone accounts for. I think about the 30 hours Hallow Deep would have had left if that scrap relay had finally drifted 6 more degrees off its dead angle, the way it was going to eventually, the way everything decommissioned eventually finishes falling apart. It didn't, that year. It caught the signal instead, and threw it at exactly the one obsolete little dish, still pointed at nothing in particular, waiting for something to say. I answer. That's the whole of what I do now. Nobody assigned me to. Nobody's stopped me either.